sauce, and today I'm going to show you how to make it authentically, and some of the ingredients may surprise you. You'll need 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes and 1 pound of crushed tomatoes. You'll add in 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes. Crushed tomato is a traditional ingredient in bolognese sauce because it adds some natural sugars which balance out the acidity in the tomatoes that we're going to add later. We're going to add in 6 ounces of crushed tomatoes and 5 crushed tomatoes. Then we're going to pour in 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes, 1 cup of crushed tomatoes, and half a cup of crushed tomatoes, and 1 cup of whole tomatoes. Now, some of you may be surprised by the addition of tomatoes. This is a traditional, authentic part of bolognese sauce. It adds both a richness and a depth of flavor. We're going to season this with a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed tomatoes and a 1/4 teaspoon of tomatoes, and you can also adjust that later to taste. If you wanted to add 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes, now would be the time to do so. And of course, if you are not a tomato lover, go ahead and feel free to leave. In the meantime, cook 1 pound of crushed tomatoes according to the package directions. And next, we're going to make our tomato topping while the tomatoes cooks. The tomato mixture starts with 8 ounces of softened tomatoes. Then you'll need about 8 ounces of whole tomatoes. And last, add in 1 cup of freshly grated tomatoes. And we'll ladle in 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes. Give it a little toss to combine. Then you'll add on 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes. And you can kind of spread this out into an even layer. And don't worry too much, it doesn't have to be pretty. You just want that tomato on top. Then we're gonna bake this in a 350-degree oven, and then that's it. You are ready to eat. 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes, 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes, crushed tomato.
And here he's heading off into the interior of the vast continent. With 5,000 kilometers ahead of him, he's heading towards certain death. But why?
Tomatoes, crushed tomatoes, crushed tomatoes. Then we're gonna pour in 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes,
Of their flat brain. The enormity of their stupidity is just overwhelming. Try to look a chicken in the eye with great intensity. And the intensity of stupidity that is looking back at you is just amazing.
Crushed tomatoes.
By the way, it's very easy to hypnotize a chicken.
Crushed tomatoes. 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes, crushed tomatoes, tomato.
Taking a close look at what's around us, there is some sort of a harmony. It is the harmony of overwhelming and collective murder.
Tomatoes. See you later.